Epic Universe is the newest and most expensive Universal park ever built. And recently, I had the chance to go to this brand new park. And today, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on everything Epic Universe, from the rides, food, and even my stay at the Helios Grand Hotel on property. So, without further ado, let's get straight into my review of Epic Universe. Starting off with going over the 5 lands that make up the park. First, we have Celestial Park. Celestial Park is the main hub of Epic Universe. It is the land you will start in, and the one you will use to go from one land to another. The area is themed amazingly, with lots of references to the sky and astrology, and really does act as a great hub of the park. This area is home to the Kronos, the main entry point to the park, 2 rides, which we'll get to in a second, and also has the main Helios Grand Hotel, which I stayed in during my visit to the park, which will be talked about in its own section of the review. Now back to the rides. The 2 rides in this area of the park are the Constellation Carousel and my favorite attraction at the park, the excellent Stardust Racers, both being amazing rides in their own right. Starting with the carousel, it was one of the best carousels I've ever ridden. It offers a fun ride experience and looks great, while also giving great views. It is probably a legitimate top 5 ride in the park for me. And my dad, who rode all of the same rides that I did, even rated it number 2 in the park for its uniqueness and fun factor. And Stardust, well, it's one of the best roller coasters in the entire world. I rode this thing so many times in so many seats, and I have it all the way at number 2 in my overall rankings for every roller coaster I've ridden. It really is that good. And you can hear my more complete thoughts about Stardust in my full review, which I will link below. All of that culminates in this being one of the best areas in the park, in my opinion. I really don't have any bad things to say about it, and everything in the area was really solid. Now on to our second area. Dark Universe. Before the park's opening, this area was easily one of the most hyped of the 5. Partially because it has something that hasn't really been done in the massive Orlando tourist market. That being a dark area themed to monsters. And for their first shot, Universal did great. The theming around the whole area looks really quite amazing. The level of immersion is insane, from the lights on Frankenstein's manor to the cast members literally being dressed up to fit the theme. This is textbook theming from Universal. This area currently features 2 rides, Curse the Werewolf, a Launchback spinning coaster, and Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment. And first, I have to say this one thing. The Curse of the Werewolf hate must stop right now. This ride is not bad. I mean, is it a little short? Yes. Is the swing launch as useless as the second launch on Slinky Dog Dash? Yes. But it is a fun ride with great theming that occupies a small space in the park that would have otherwise just been used for more theming. It's a win-win. Monsters, on the other hand, was a great dark ride. The visuals were great, the theming was solid, and the art movements were an improvement to those found on Forbidden Journey. But they are still a little jerky, so I'd probably avoid this ride if you are very motion sick or get headaches on roller coasters frequently. Coming from someone who's just not a big fan of the ride system, given what they had, this actually added quite a bit to the park in my opinion. Overall, this area again was really good. The theming around the area was incredible, and the rides were solid as well. Now, let's move on to the IP-driven sections of the park. Super Nintendo World. This is an area that we have already seen debuted at other Universal parks worldwide, including Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Japan, with this version aligning more to the latter of the two. This being because Universal Studios Hollywood does not have the Donkey Kong Country expansion, which this and Universal Japan do have. As for theming, this land is insane. You really feel like you've been placed right into one of the games. And as a person who played a lot of Nintendo games growing up, this was a really well done area. Especially the Donkey Kong Country, which I expected to lack a little bit in the theming department for only having 1 ride. But it actually very much exceeded my expectations. As for rides, this section is tied for the most attractions with 3, those being Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, Yoshi's Adventure, and Minecart Madness. Starting with Mario Kart, a sort of interactive shooting dark ride using augmented reality. I was definitely a little hesitant that the ride would be a little odd and hard to understand, but it was actually relatively easy once you get the hang of it. And I even got the most points for my cart, so that's a bonus. Yoshi's Adventure was a simple, interactive omni-mover that gave great views of the area and had some fun theming. A great ride for kids that aren't able to ride the larger rides yet. And Minecart Madness was another unique roller coaster that had some great theming and a fun ride experience. This is another solid land for the park. Now onto our second to last land. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic. The Harry Potter IP has been used heavily by Universal in the last 10 or so years, and I'm happy to report that this land actually felt quite different to the others I've experienced and seen. This land is themed to Paris in the 1920s, and draws a lot of inspiration from the Fantastic Beasts movies. Now, I am not too familiar with the Fantastic Beasts series. However, I am familiar with Harry Potter. I've watched all the movies, read the books, etc. And I really liked how this land turned out. Now, it doesn't have a lot of rides, but it makes up for that with its incredible theming. It really does look like parts of Paris with a distinct Harry Potter look. The main ride in this land is Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. Now, not a ton of people knew what the ride was going to be like until the park opened this year. But when it opened, people were absolutely loving this ride. Like, it had 300 to 400 minute wait times when it first opened to the public. But when I went, it actually wasn't bad at all. The posted wait time was anywhere from around 60 to 90 minutes at its peak, and I probably waited around 45. And that really wasn't too bad with the amazingly themed queue line. As for the ride itself, it blended screens and practical effects amazingly, and the movements were smooth and fun. Now, was it worth the hype? Maybe. For me, as someone who isn't a massive Harry Potter fan, it was a fun dark ride with a good story, but if I really loved Harry Potter, I think I would love this thing. It just kind of depends on how much you love the series. The land also has a show, Le Cirque Inconnu, which I did not attend, but I've heard good things about it. Overall, this land has good theming and a solid lineup of rides. Now onto our final land, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Burke. Isle of Burke is another first for Universal. The How to Train Your Dragon hasn't been used much anywhere in the world, and this is the first major land of its kind in the States. And how did Universal do? I would say very well. Again, I'm not a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan, but I did like how well themed the area was, and the references to the movies were actually pretty easy to understand. Like, I could probably throw someone who literally knew nothing about the movies into this land, and they'd probably understand everything relatively well. Another thing I liked about this land is how everything looked really well put together, and how the land seemed to have a lively atmosphere, which I think is what Universal was going for. As for rides, this land is tagged with Super Nintendo World for the most in the park with 3. Those being Dragon Racers Rally, Fire Drill, which was the only attraction I did not experience, and Hiccup's Wing Gliders. Dragon Racers Rally was my first Gerstlauer Skyflyer, and it was a ton of fun, although I did find it a little hard to flip. Hiccups had a fun ride experience, but I think the trans kinda ruined it for me. The seat backs were incredibly hard and uncomfortable, and the restraints were restrictive and put you in an uncomfortable position, which made me kinda not like the ride. This land also features a few other things, like a character meet and greet, which looked pretty cool, another show, and one of the best kind of obstacle play courses I've ever seen. I went on this thing to get footage of parts of the park, including Hiccup and Stardust, and got some of the best views of both of these rides, along with the entire park. Not to mention, the actual course was kind of fun too. This definitely added to the land and the park as a whole. Overall, another solid land with some solid attractions. And that is going to do it for the 5 lands in the park. Now on to hotels and accommodations. Being in the Orlando area, Epic Universe has a ton of options when it comes to hotels and places to stay. Directly on property, you have the Helios Grand Hotel, which I stayed at, and the 2 Terra Luna hotels. And Universal also has a ton of other hotels that are closer to the 3 previous parks. It should also be noted that if you stay in any Universal hotel, you do get early entry, which is a huge advantage as you get in the park over an hour early. You could also stay in one of the many Disney hotels or other hotels in the area, or even rent a house for a few days. But none of those will give you early entry. As for my stay at the Helios Grand, I really enjoyed it. The theming around the hotel fit that of Celestial Park perfectly, and there were a lot of solid amenities for a hotel at this price point. I personally checked out the pool and the arcade, both being okay for the money. Another big plus for this hotel is the view. We booked a theme park view room, and boy was it worth it. You got excellent views of the park from all angles, as it's pretty much laid out on a platter in front of you. I even got some okay footage of the park from up here. And one of the cooler things is that you can even see SeaWorld Orlando off to your right if you're at a high enough floor. And even if you don't have a theme park view, you can also go on the amazing balcony on the ground floor. There's a few nice water features and great looking sculpture of Helios. The hotel also has a few food options, which we'll cover in the next segment. The room itself was also pretty solid, though I feel it should have had a little bit more theming or nods to the park, something like what Disney does in a lot of their hotels, although that can be a little too much at times. Overall, a solid hotel for the money. Now let's get into our next segment, the food. While at the park and my hotel, I ate quite a few times, and a lot of the food was really good, so I'm going to share a few of my highlights. The place I ate the most was the Flora Taverna at the hotel. This place had amazing food. The breakfast options were good, but the real star of the show was the lunch/the dinner options. My favorite of which being the first meal I had at the hotel, where I had the Wagyu beef burger, which was outstanding. It had a ton of flavor, was cooked well, and also came with some amazing wedge fries. Easily a highlight. This restaurant also had very nice servers and a great view of the park. Another spot I really liked was Pizza Moon. I had heard a few good things coming into the trip about Pizza Moon, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And good thing I did, because this place had some great pizza, especially for a theme park. And my last recommendation on places to eat would be the Atlantic. We ate here on the final night of the trip because we wanted to eat at the best possible spot for the last meal. In case you're unfamiliar, the Atlantic is one of only 2 full-service sit-down places in the park. And while both were highly rated, the Atlantic was the one everybody said to try. And good thing we did, because this had some of the best food I've ever had at a theme park. The burrata and salmon I had were both incredible for a theme park, and the theming around the restaurant was great too. Not to mention, you get a great view of the park depending on where you sit. As for other places I ate, I had a breakfast sandwich at the quick service restaurant at the hotel. I ate at Toadstool Cafe on night 1, which had some fun theming and decent food, and also ate at the Meteor Astropub, which had some solid theming and some good food. It is worth noting that for most of the restaurants in the park, you do all of your ordering through the app, and servers bring you the food to you. This is pretty convenient, but the app did have some glitches and inconsistencies throughout our visit, which I would say is pretty typical for this being effectively a trial run of this system. Overall, the food here is amazing. Leagues better than any theme park food I've ever had, and I hope this can stay good for years to come. And our next and final section is going to be on the Universal Express Pass / early entry. I'm grouping these two together because I feel that they're pretty similar in a way. Starting with early entry, I touched on this in a previous segment, but if you stay at a Universal hotel, or I think have some tier of annual pass, you get early entry into the park. Early entry starts at 9 a.m., but they open the gates for us at 8:45 on both days. The attractions that are currently offered on early entry are Mario Kart, Yoshi's Adventure, Stardust, the Constellation Carousel, Monsters Unchained, and Curse of the Werewolf. When we went to the park, we went straight to Minecart Madness both days, because it had a long line and wasn't offered on Express. I also heard a lot of people getting in line to ride Ministry because it would have a quote-unquote huge wait, which it really didn't. So I would say that you really don't need to do that unless you're going in peak season. As for Express, it actually wasn't as useful as you'd imagine. This is because not every ride is offered on Express, and for the rides it is offered on, you only get 1 use per ride. So I would only really recommend it if you're planning on spending 1 day at the park and don't have an annual pass. Final thoughts. Epic Universe is an incredible park. From its great rides to amazing food, it really is worth the hype. The only slight criticism I have would be that there's not really a clear number 2 to Stardust, and nothing's really all that close. If this park can add one more Velocicoaster or Stardust type ride, then I think it has a shot at being the best park in the entire world. But other than that, Universal nailed most of the aspects of this park, and I would absolutely recommend a visit. Thank you guys so much for watching.